and welcome to the North Bank Podcast for our very first pod of 2025. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Were you saying that in the voice of Eddie Murphy and Coming to America? See,
it's not. It's Trading Places on the train, isn't it? But it's Merry New Year. He says Merry New Year, and then the guy, the copper or whatever he is, says, no, in this country we say Happy New Year.
Oh, right. Okay. I think it's also Eddie Murphy from Coming to America. And Happy New Year.
Yes, you could be right.
I think we've both got an Eddie Murphy gag into the opening of the first podcast of 2025. I think we should quit while we're ahead.
Join us next week when we'll be discussing.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, well, we will be discussing Brentford from yesterday, and we were looking ahead to Brighton. And we have entered January, and it is the winter transfer window, which I know we're all really looking forward to because we are going to get Alexander Isak in the door for a cool 150 million. All right, Steph? Steph's
I'm
just
shaking my head
his head
just to explain to listeners.
But before we get down to the real football, I have got a January-related quiz for you guys. So looking back over the Premier League era, I want you to think about and come up with our top 10 January transfer signings. Top 10 by transfer market transfer fee. Okay? Top 10. So I'm going to leave that with you. We'll come back to that at the very end. Please don't forget. Okay?
All right, okay.
So, Steph, how are you doing, mate? You were at the Brentford game yesterday. First away game of the new year.
Yep. And got back at about midnight, absolutely buzzing, which meant that I didn't go to bed for maybe another couple of hours. So I'm pretty tired now as we record in the afternoon, the day after. But it was a thoroughly enjoyable trip. In the end, it should be said.
Well, you put out a very kind of prescient tweet which said, it's not how it begins, it's how it ends that's important. Yeah. And I think that kind of summed it up quite well. If you kind of look over our kind of WhatsApp exchanges, it would kind of follow that from like, oh my God, to that was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, Chris, you and I were watching it on the box. What was your kind of sense of the game?
Well, I suppose if you want a sort of overall takeaway, what delighted me was the manner in which we scored our goals, and that we can look at set-piece FC and we can look at picking teams apart with intricate passing. But what I really liked was there was a sense of opportunism about each of the goals that we scored, particularly the first two, born out of chaos, really, in that the ball's in the mixer, they can't clear it, it's pinging around, Partey has a shot, and it falls kindly to Jesus, who nods it in. Second one, you could argue similarly, there's a bit of a melee in the box from a set-piece, and then Marino stabs it in, and then there's a poor clearance, headed clearance, I think, for Martinelli. He takes it on his thigh and dispatches it very nicely. But all three of them were kind of from a percentage football almost scenario. It wasn't like we unpicked them. And it just shows another, and Mikel alluded to it in the after-match interview where he said, we wanted to create a bit of chaos, quote unquote. And that is just another thing that we've added or can look to as part of our kind of
or
armor.
Returned to.
Well, and why not? It's part of the, as much as set pieces are, and as much as intricate players, you have to embrace all of those. So that for me was the kind of main takeaway, was the manner of the goals.
For me, it was the timing of the goals. We scored when we needed to, and going in level was the very least we deserved. And then those two quick goals towards the start of the second half. Yep. Game over. I mean, game over in reality. At the time, it didn't quite feel like it was.
No, we were still bricking it, weren't we?
Game over. But I did say to you, Chris, in a message that this is probably one of those games where we look back and think, well, Brentford did nothing in the last half an hour, but it feels like they're about to do everything any second now. But going back to before the game. Before the teams were announced, I wrote down on my kind of post-Brentford podcast planning page, there's a few P's for you, Nwaneri needs minutes out wide, could do for the first team what Lewis Skelly has done. That was my kind of, woke up yesterday morning thinking, well, okay, what am I looking for in this lineup and this team? Now, I wanted him to start against Ipswich. I thought that was the game with the least amount of jeopardy. And maybe if we hadn't had a little bit of a bug going through some of the first team squads, which kind of hobbled Kai Havertz, his inclusion. Maybe Nwaneri wouldn't have actually started. I don't know. I'd like to think he did. But also the other side is, well, Ipswich were going to park the bus. They were always going to do that. Brentford are going to come at us. So it might actually have been, this is why Arteta's the manager and I'm not, a better game to play Nwaneri in that he would have more space to work with, perhaps. He would have less attention, certainly than someone like Saka would have from the opposition. So actually it might have been a part of the plan all along. I don't know. Arteta's not likely to say, no, Nwaneri wouldn't have started had Havertz been available. So with that in mind, when the team news dropped, I was really pleased to see his name in it. Now, that was countered by the fact that we knew Saka wasn't going to be involved. Rice on the bench, whether that was knock related, obviously not serious knock related, or whether it's just giving him some minutes rest, which is good because we've got a hectic, manic January, but no Havertz in the lineup at all. I just thought, okay, that leaves us with Trossard as the only attacking threat from the bench. We've got that kid Cabia, who's apparently like electric fast, has been in a couple of first team squads, certainly last season and this season. But again, you can imagine that he was only there to make up the numbers, not really to have actual game impact. So it was a bit of a 6-1 kind of team news, good news and bad news. Steph, you were actually at the game. What was the feeling in the grounds prior to kickoff with relation to the team news? Yeah,
I mean, everyone was a bit more sort of taken aback by this rumour that there was obviously a bug going around the squad, and how that might have affected players. But everyone still looked at that team and would have expected, or certainly, hope for a positive result, even if, Nwaneri was a bit untried on that right position and no Havertz off the bench. It did look a little bit thin maybe up top, but, we needn't have worried in the end.
Well, no, but we didn't know that at the time.
No, I know. when you're in the away end, you're just excited about the game and you're there and you can cheer and sing and you can have a drink and you feel, I don't know, you probably feel it worse, you guys watching at home, because you're just hearing the pundits and the analysis and all the talk online where, we're kind of in our own little bubble, just, singing some songs and chatting with friends.
Well, the funny thing is when you're actually at the game, you think you can do something about the outcome. Whereas when you're at home, you don't.
Powerless.
You're aware of your kind of pointlessness.
You've just got the dog looking at you quizzically as you scream and thump the table. My only, to add to what you've said, Holly, was just that Calafiori, for me, I would have rather have seen him come on rather than start, because he did look quite rusty, I thought, and he was, I don't want to heap the blame on him for the goal, but I thought he could have got tighter to Waymu a bit quicker. So for me, that was the only kind of, he's starting him. Okay, I hope he hits the ground running, which he didn't.
Well, me and Steph both called it that Calafiori would start, and I think that was still the right call. He needs to get these minutes, to keep him match ready, match fit. I think he could have played the last 5 games and he'd still have made that mistake. He'd still have defended like that. I think as a left back, he has that. He does tend to give the opposing winger too much space. But let's talk about the goal, because for me, Calafiori was culpable, but I don't think he was the most culpable. I think it starts with Ødegaard.
Oh yeah,
very sloppy concession, and then a very kind of half-hearted attempt to win it back. And Calafiori gave him way. I was shouting, "Close him!" And I was also looking at Gabriel as well, who was like, "Support him! He's got so much space." Nobody likes to see your goalkeeper beaten at the near post like that, and he was clearly anticipating a curler to the far corner, banking on the fact that his 2 6-foot+ defenders might actually block a near post effort, which I think is fair enough.
I think in his mitigation, just to chuck in, I think that the fact that they were both in front of him may have hampered his vision as well.
Yeah.
As you said, he was expecting it across him and there was this gaping gap and he did kind of dive a little late. So
I think I messaged in the group as well. I actually don't blame Raya for that goal at all. I blame Ødegaard and Calafiori. They're the two culpable ones. What was it like? Can you talk me through where you were in the ground, Stef, in relation to that goal being scored? I've never been to this new stadium, so I don't know the geography of it necessarily. Whereabouts were you?
Well, we were literally in line with the goal line. We were sort of joking that we could be the Hawkeye technology to check whether the ball was going over the line, which came into relevance later on when David Raya decided to not catch a ball. And then scrabble back. So yeah, they put the Arsenal fans sort of in the corner. So we're on the
down that end.
Down that end, yeah, where Brentford scored their first goal, and we're round to the sort of left-hand side, literally looking along the goal line. So we're sort of seeing it unfold, see Ødegaard give the ball away, see them attack. But what the feeling in the away end was that, the first 10 minutes, it was as we sort of expected. Brentford sitting in, looking to overturn the ball, counter quickly and this, that and the other. But we looked relatively comfortable. They break, first shot on target and it's a goal. And there was that just eye-rolling disappointment and annoyance.
Yeah,
Fulham, a repetition of all that kind of stuff going on. So that was really sort of disappointing. I think a few people had even sort of said, that actually, if we get the first goal, it will be really difficult for them. So to then concede, it's like, oh God, here we go. No Saka in the team, who's so reliable for goals or assists. Yeah, everyone's starting to worry a little bit. But I think, as you said, that to then score so quickly in return, that really did make a difference, because we were looking for something then to spark us into life. And there was a little moment where Nwaneri was on the touchline, holding players off, maybe turning them quite quickly. That's what sparked us a little bit. And then, a bit of chaos in the box for Jesus to tap home.
Chris, what was your sense of the opening 15 minutes, the concession of the goal? Because I think Steph is sugarcoating our performance a little bit.
Oh no!
That was the sense I got.
Just to clarify, the first few minutes when we were able to keep the territory, as it were, sort of the Brentford end, but nothing was working. There was no clever balls. There was no sort of neat little touches. There were a few passes going awry. I joked to people I was with that Calafiori seemed to be beaming in his performance on a satellite delay from Eastern Europe or something, because he seemed to be so behind the speed of the play that it was a real sort of worry. It was the kind of performance that is probably relatable to all sorts of people. It was the day after New Year's Eve when you turn up to work and you're just like, oh, we got okay.
Well,
got to do some stuff now.
We don't know which of the players that started were impacted by this bug. Arteta did suggest that there were players in the starting 11 who were affected by it. And I know, Chris, we were chatting during the game and we kind of pinpointed Ødegaard was very sloppy and Martinelli was doing his usual, just running down blind channels and not looking up and no end product. And I need to get used to Merino, I think, because for me, I've seen someone use the word functional to describe his performance, and they were actually trying to be complimentary as well. They weren't being overly negative about that. But for me, we were quite ponderous in that first 20-25 minutes, and he was as well. I'm not saying he was as culpable in terms of ceding possession like Ødegaard was in particular, but for me, Nwaneri was the antithesis of that. He was the only one that had that kind of
spark. Yeah,
exactly that, and that desire to go forwards and with a bit of pace. Was that your sense, Chris?
Yes, absolutely. I wrote in my little notes here, Ethan live wire first half, just because of exactly as you've said. And I think that functional thing is right with him in that he's a great anticipator and ball winner, but his strength is not going to be, threading it through the lines with pace, and that he's not that. And I liken him to someone like, I don't know, Makelele at Chelsea all those years ago, was that destroyer, just anticipator, great at breaking up play. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you do have to have the yin and yang, don't you, within the team? And Ødegaard was being quite wasteful. I think I made a note saying that he was just floating balls in, which seemed more hopeful when we've got no Havertz in the box, and it was just food and drink to the Brentford back three.
He was trying his usual intricate little kind of passes between 2-3 players, and he was getting it through the players, but he was either overcooking it a little bit so it would run out of play, or undercooking it a little bit, like he got caught in possession where he didn't put enough fizz on it to get past the opposing player, and it just wasn't coming off for him, whereas Nwaneri it was coming off for. And in fact, Nwaneri was having a very Ødegaard-like performance in that first half. I think.
Can I just chuck in a quick stat?
Yes.
17 out of 17 completed passes in the first half.
Who?
Nwaneri.
There you go.
Boom.
And I didn't know that stat, but that's my eyes were not lying. It felt like that. I don't suppose you've picked up the stat for Ødegaard from that first half, have you?
0 out of 100. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Yeah, just for the record, that's not a true stat.
That's just
in
me
case.
joshing.
So, Steph, you said that because we equalised quite soon. Well, actually, it was a good 16 minutes later, which in football terms is quite a long time. So it wasn't that immediate response. And one thing happened of great significance before we equalised. And in fact, it was the same minute, less than a minute after Raya, who did just have butter hands, butter fingers. The ball just went straight through his... But wow, do you think he did that deliberately so he could have that camera angle from behind the goal of him diving leaping like a salmon upriver, clawing the ball out? It's fantastic reaction and like game-saving save from his own mistake. Chris, what was did you think it was in, Chris, from the camera angle we had?
Yeah. I was head in hands. And thank God for Steph on the goal line technology there.
We saw it.
It was a mess of his own making, obviously. But that was it from there on.
I was waiting for the referee's watch to buzz and give the goal. It did look like it had gone over the line from the camera angle we had. It didn't look like he got there in time. And of course, then, when that happens, what you're waiting for as a viewer, you're waiting for that still frame from above the goal of where the ball is, in relation to the goal line. But of course, we didn't have that opportunity because we went straight down the other end and we got our equaliser. But Steph, talk us through that moment. If it was down your end and you were right along that goal line, what were you thinking?
We were all just wide-eyed with slight disbelief. And I refuse to praise his efforts to atone because the error was just so egregious. Like it was just a lack of concentration or whatever.
All right, bar humbug.
Oh no, it was awful, and it was sort of symptomatic.
He made a mistake, a little mistake, didn't even lead to a goal.
Yeah, but it was a little
Cut
mistake
the
that could
guy
have
some
seen
slack.
Because 2-0 down.
Sack him, yeah. Bench him, Neto. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. What have we signed Neto for if not to play him against Brighton?
To play in the net.
I know, play in the net.
Okay.
And it was just unreal. But again, it's funny how these things sort of happen because we go from that moment where everyone's just in disbelief and worry because all of a sudden we're making all sorts of mistakes that we don't normally seem to make, to then go up to the other end. And it almost made those celebrations even wilder because we knew how close we were to going 2-0 down. So when Jesus, poaches his goal home with his little dinked header into the goal, we just erupted. It soured somewhat by a VAR check for handball, but actually, in that moment, I went for it.
There was no. It was the offside for that one. Was the VAR thing, wasn't it? It was if Jesus was offside when Partey kicked the ball, and it looked even in. I don't know about you, Chris, what you thought, but I wasn't expecting any VAR.
No
interruption on that one. It was the Marino one where there was a little push in the back. Yes. I was thinking, I'd have been annoyed because considering some of the treatment that Gabriel was receiving in their penalty box at the same time, if we'd been penalised, and we weren't penalised, so I shouldn't be complaining about something that didn't happen, as much as I might like to. What was... I know the answer to this for me, but so Chris, for the Jesus goal, what was the most significant thing about the Jesus goal for you?
Just where he was, just being there. Simple.
Steph?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus said in his post-match, I watched highlights and post-match interviews and stuff when I got home, and he says, look, I like to drop deep and I like to link up play and, do all these sorts of things, but he says sometimes I've just got to be there. To quote what you said, Chris, he's got to poach, essentially.
Well, that wasn't the most significant thing for me. The most significant thing for me was having a bloody shot. Partey had a shot. I mean, Jesus himself, he cut inside on the left-hand side once prior to that and beat a couple of players, and it was like, shoot! And we seemed so reluctant to take a shot from outside the box. And thankfully Partey did. We'll get on to Partey in a bit, but thankfully he did take a shot, because you don't know what can happen. Yeah, sure, the goalkeeper should have palmed it behind for or out wide or behind for a corner. He did the worst thing too. It bounced back into the middle of the middle area of the goal line. And Jesus was brilliant in his reactions and very poacher-like header. Brilliant, absolutely. And that's 6 goals in 4 games for him. And, long may that continue. And nice to see. And I thought he had a good game as well, Jesus. So, certainly from that point on, I thought he was very lively. I did moan at him in the first 20 minutes because he seemed to get kind of bullied off the ball too many times and was like arms in the air to the referee. I'm like, no, just stop moaning, just be stronger. You can cope with it. You've had, you're well used to centre backs giving you a rough ride. You can deal with it. Stop moaning to the referee. I was a bit concerned about where that told me his head was at, but no, he was good. I mean, obviously his goal had a big kind of impact on his confidence as well, that he's kicked on. But I don't know, Chris, were you not shouting at the screen saying shoot like several times? I was.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, born out of chaos, kind of. It's like you create those opportunities, those chances, because like you said, you don't know what will happen to the ball. If you don't know what's going to happen, the defence certainly doesn't know what's going to happen. So you're just creating that chance for chaos.
The chance for chaos. I mean, it could deflect it off a defender and gone into the other side of the net. Anything. Just take a shot. It's like we're trying to... someone tweeted, I don't know who it was, after the Brentford goal, that Mbeumo was only ever going to cut inside and shoot. You knew that. And it's like, sometimes we try and score the perfect goal. I know that's been levelled at us for years, back to Wenger's days and so on. But it's like, just take a shot.
Well, and I'd also add to that, how many goals have we conceded where the opposition has had a go and just it's deflected, or they've got a lucky rebound? So, we shouldn't be too sort of snobbish about it and try and play this kind of purist football, which I don't think we are. I do think there is that kind of attempt now to play percentages as well.
I think, percentages is right. I think on the one hand, when it was Wenger's team trying to score the perfect goal, that was more a sort of philosophical, almost artistic kind of approach. I think what's going on with Arteta is it is born out of statistics. And I was talking about stuff yesterday because we noticed a few patterns in the game. And one of them was early doors, it seemed like we were going long quite a lot. So if the ball was at the back with Raya or the defenders, they wouldn't hesitate to boot it long. And for us, we were looking at it going, well, we're not winning any of those headers. Jesus, Nwaneri, Martinelli, they're not going to win anything in the air against Brentford. But I think it was born out of this idea that Brentford are a really good pressing team. So we were so concerned about them turning the ball over near our goal that we would just circumvent that and go long. I worried that they were still playing tactics for the likes of Havertz being in the team, but obviously he wasn't there because of a bug. So that was one thing. But again, it's all about evaluating the risk that the opposition sort of pose. Another element we saw was that there were times when someone like Partey would have the ball in midfield and he'd have acres of space in front of him, but he wouldn't necessarily burst forward to try and fill that space and get the territory because he knows he's the last man. So it was almost like they hesitated and let Brentford get into their shape, again, because actually it's more safe for us not to concede if Brentford are all back in their half defending. And there's this weird risk management. It's almost like insurance, like people evaluating, the dangers of the situation. It's a very sort of methodical approach. Whereas, like you say, the opposition, they'll set up to defend and then try their luck, set piece or, deflected shot or whatever. But like I say, I think from an attacking sense, the fact that Partey took that shot and it just created that moment of chaos for Jesus to capitalise on, we need to perhaps embrace that a little bit more.
I think given that Saka is out as well, just to cap it off really, that we know we've got to get goals from somewhere because he's our main creator and has been for this season. So you do have to look to things like that, have a crack. And if we're going to spread the goals around, then people like the midfielders need to weigh in, and Partey included. So yeah,
I think in 12 games we've scored 28 goals or something like that. It's again, it's not our inability to score goals. It's our inability to score that crucial goal when Everton are putting 11 behind the ball. It's always that kind of, with Saka gone for 2 to 3 months, Ødegaard definitely not on the form he's capable of. Where's that coming from? And we're kind of bouncing forward to the second half. I know at half time, Chris, I messaged the group and I said that I was actually feeling a little bit more confident because I thought, well, Brentford haven't actually done much to us. We've been pretty average. The last 10 minutes of the first half, I thought we were a lot better, a lot more encouraging, including Ødegaard in that. He was finding his kind of, his what do you call that? His range, finding his range better. Nwaneri was still playing well. Jesus had his goal, so his confidence was up. And I was thinking, do you know what? I think we'll up it, and I think we'll be okay. And we talked before we started recording about kind of game management and timings of goals and so on. But we to score those 2 goals, within the first 8 minutes of the second half, I think was game over. I think it kind of burst their bubble completely. So Marino scored from a corner indirectly, the second phase kind of thing. Yeah, and Martinelli. Well, was Martinelli's from a corner?
I don't think so.
How did Martinelli score?
It was crossed in, and one of the
Brentford
defenders headed it.
No, it was Marino's from the corner. Yes, it was Nwaneri who took that corner, and which is interesting as well. In the absence of Saka and Rice, Arteta looked to Nwaneri. Mm-hmm. That's a big compliment to a 17-year-old, considering how important set piece delivery is to set piece FC. And I thought his delivery was really, really good. And it did cause that chaos there, and we did score from it. It was his cross that went in.
From open play.
Yeah, from open play that then rebounded to Martinelli, who did take that goal extremely well. So, Steph, you're in the ground. I don't know the geography of the stadium. How much of a view did you have of those 2 goals? And is there a screen in there? Do you see replays? There
is a screen, but in... the little pettiness of football, did we get a replay of the Arsenal goals? Of course we didn't. No, we didn't. Because, football clubs are petty like that. Arsenal, we'll show your goals because we've got class.
Do we? Do we show a replay of... I don't know we do.
Yeah. We show replays of everything. Yeah, we absolutely do.
Including the opposition goals?
Including the opposition goals.
I don't remember that. I remember I'm never looking. I'm always crying.
Yeah, that's it. No, we had a good view. I mean, the Marino one less so, because that was a little bit more bodies in the box, quite packed, so didn't quite see how the ball bounced. But, as soon as the net riffles, we're, enjoying it. But the Martinelli one, very well taken goal. I must admit, I perhaps kind of capped my celebration ever so slightly because I saw that Marino push and just thought, look, it's one of those where... Look, it's kind of... Does it make a difference? Was that player going to get anywhere to sort of block it? Probably not, so it's not going to make a difference to the goal. But we're just so conditioned now to look at some of those little incidences and worry that it might come to something. But it was a very well-taken goal by Martinelli, and he very much enjoyed celebrating it, as did we.
And I hope he takes that on into the next game.
Well,
and the
this
next
is it.
game.
He's a confidence player, isn't he? He will have these runs of forms, and long may it continue.
You could say he's in one already. He's actually scored in 3 of his last 4 away Premier League games.
There you go.
So that's not, and I wouldn't have kind of acknowledged that if I hadn't read it. So in terms of goal getting and spreading around the goals and replacing Saka's goals and influence, Jesus now has 6 and 4, and Martinelli has 3 in his last 4 away games. So that's important, and I do think, just to kind of maybe sum up Nwaneri, I do think that he has made the best audition, last night was the best audition for being the most regular starter in place of Saka on that right hand side. His profile is the most conducive to working with Timber and Ødegaard on that right hand side, and I thought that was excellent. Now, whether I think he'll start against Brighton, well, we'll get onto that at some point. Can I just say the official Man of the Match award went to Jesus on TNT. The Arsenal.com, after every game, they post vote for your man of the match. And the 4 options they gave were Marino, Nwaneri, Martinelli and Jesus. Now, for me, the real man of the match wasn't even in any of those 5 players. Chris, who was your man of the match?
I think Partey.
Yeah, I'd agree. I thought he was superb.
Dynamic.
In that first half as well. Yeah.
Really dynamic. And, it was more aggressive than I've seen him, I think, all season.
What were other people watching then?
It's just a weird
bias
that we have to attackers and goals. Basically, that's all it is. And
it's the 3 goal scorers and Nwaneri being 17.
Nwaneri's the shiny new toy. He's young. He's English and all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, absolutely right. I think I messaged either someone or posted on our socials about the fact that when it wasn't going well for us in the first half, Partey was the one fighting fires. And when it was going well, he was also the one providing the platform for players to then, perform on. So I think across the whole game, Partey really did stand out. He was excellent.
I actually think he's probably been our player of the season so far. I think he's been excellent all season.
Consistent.
Which really, really winds me up because he's not going to play in midfield against Brighton on Saturday, is he?
Well, more annoyingly, Holly, is that we've had him for about 5 years, and this is the first time he seems to be injury-free for a long period, and we're probably going to lose him on a free next year.
But if he wasn't playing for a new contract somewhere else, he'd be injured.
Probably, yeah.
The Timber yellow card, I think, was a yellow card. I think it was. For 2 frustrating observations about that for me, though, were one, it was a Martinelli hospital pass that put him in trouble for that in the first place. And the other thing as well is, I don't know his name, Darmstad, might be him. Anyway, I can't remember who it was. Put in a tackle on Martinelli, which was arguably worse than the Timber one, about 6 or 7 minutes earlier. Free kick, nothing else. And I was just because I knew Timber was walking that tightrope along with Jesus on four yellow cards. I needed to just get through this game to avoid a 1-game suspension. But again, he's picked it up in isolation. I can't argue with it. And he's now out of the Brighton game on Saturday. However, a game off for Timber is no bad thing either, because he's another one who we need to be very cognizant of in terms of fitness and protecting his muscles and so on. So a week off for him is, not a disaster, I guess. But what was the atmosphere like then? Last half hour, Steph, and after the final whistle?
Yeah, it was really good. There were lots of songs going around. The Shake It El Neni chant has been repurposed for Nwaneri, although it's a bit of a mouthful for us, stupid football fans to fit in.
How's it go? Generally, I'm asking this. I'm not setting you up.
Well, it's Twist and Shout. It's the song Twist. I'm not singing it. I'm too tired for that. And yeah, it was really good. And I think it was, the enjoyment of it was born out of the fact that it then turned into the Arsenal can control and defend the game. I don't know. Again, I don't know who it was. It might have been Orbinho who put the stat out about the fact that when you break the game down into thirds, from minute 0 to 30 or 34, I think it was, Brentford had 1 shot on on goal. Between 30 and 60, 1 shot on goal. Between 60 and the end, no shots on goal. You know, we squeezed the game once we
That's
wrestled
impressive,
control
though,
back.
isn't it?
And then there's James Benge, CBS reporter, was putting out all these stats about the XG conceded, and you know we are in, you know, Premier League like all-time stats for basically giving up no chances to the opposition.
0.29 was
It's
their overall
ridiculous.
XG.
And that's at the home of a team who up until yesterday had the joint best home record.
And
Top
was scoring
scorers
like
in
4 or
home
5. Yep. Yeah,
So it was unreal, really.
It's just about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
game state, you know, we can see we let them have the ball in the last, so the possession stats will be skewed because of that latter third of the game where we were basically saying, okay, we're done here.
Well, what I liked was at 2-1 we carried on for the third goal.
Yes.
It was at 3-1 we decided, no, we're okay here. Let's back ourselves defensively. Let's drop 5 yards deeper. Let's give them a bit more of the ball around the halfway line and just make sure that we close up all avenues and squeeze space and so on, and just limit them to chances. We still pressed like demons at the front. It was great to see.
Raya's distribution to a couple of times to Martinelli could have seen this 4-1.
He could have got an assist.
Yeah.
And Jesus, you know, that cheeky little take from Martinelli, and then he just nudged it and it went slightly wide of the post.
Yes, he took it really early, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, we did create chances, but they were breakaway chances to score a fourth. We didn't need to score a fourth, and so we played like that, and that was important. I'm much more comfortable defending a 2-goal lead than a 1-goal lead, because a 1-goal lead, they had one chance when it kind of skittered across the box, and Raya jumped on it at the feet of a Brentford's attacker, and I'm thinking, God, if we were only sitting on a 1-goal lead there, I'd have been. I don't know. You'd have been out for your garden gnome, Chris, and
Still be out there now.
Any final observations on the Brentford game?
No, all good. I think. Yeah, that was a tough place to go. 3 points, New Year's Day. Bring it on.
Box ticks, indeed. Right, okay, brilliant. We'll take a little break, and when we come back, we'll cast our thoughts forward to another tricky away game at Brighton on Saturday. So, see you in a bit. Welcome back to the North Bank Podcast, part 2. Right, Brighton away on Saturday. And I just closed off the first part there by saying another tricky away game. And then I looked at Brighton's form. So Brighton are sitting in 10th on 27 points. But let me read out to you their last 6 results. Villa away 2-2. That's okay. Brentford home 0-0. Away to West Ham 1-1. Away to Palace 3-1 defeat. Home to Leicester 2-2 draw. Away to Fulham 3-1 defeat. They're on a really, really poor run. I don't know why. After they stole a draw from us, is it Van Heck, the right back, or Veltman? Veltman, was it? Veltman got right. So I couldn't be happier for a team to have a crap running, non-winning run than Brighton.
They are draw specialists. That's why you've got to say non-winning run, isn't it?
Yes, I did. It's not a losing run, yeah.
No.
Although they have lost a couple of those, Fulham and Palace. Again,
I mean, Fulham are a good side. Palace, yeah, you'd want them to be a bit more, especially because they've got that weird rivalry.
Yeah, and I actually watched that game, and Palace were pretty dominant.
Oh, yeah.
They had lots of chances in that game.
Very good.
And that was at Brighton. I thought that was at Brighton. It says at Palace.
I think it was.
Here. I thought it was at Brighton, yeah. In terms of availabilities and injuries, suspension, and so on, I can only find that Welbeck is definitely out. Kadioglu, the Ferdy guy, the guy we were interested in, the left back, I think he's definitely out. Hinchelwood is out and Milner is out. They're the 4 that I could find. I did see somewhere that what's his name, Ferguson, is not available, but I don't know about that. After that, I don't know. I know João Pedro should have been sent off in their last game when he just swung an elbow and just, I mean, intent. I thought intent was a thing.
Yeah.
He intended to remove the bloke's head from his shoulders. That's what he intended to do. The fact he didn't make contact, it's just luck, fortuitous for the. Who were they playing? Villa.
I think so.
Yeah, lucky for the Villa player that he was far enough away. He was out of reach of their elbow. Mitumo is a good player. Who's scoring their goals? I know Welbeck was on a real hot streak, but he's out. Who's their goal scorer?
Well, João Pedro's the only one that you
João Pedro,
hear about,
that's it. So
people might be in for him in January.
So again, it's a banana skin game, no question. It's also a game where we should be winning. It is also a game where we have to win if we are to maintain any interest in the title. That's the pressure we're under now every game, partly because of Liverpool's form, partly because of the points we've already dropped.
We played before Liverpool this weekend as well, so that just, those little psychological moments.
3 points, that'd be good.
And Liverpool
keep a bit of pressure onto them.
Playing, checks notes. Man United. Oh.
Listen.
Never mind.
I can listen. Far be it for me to do anything other than point and laugh hysterically at everything that's happening at Manchester United. I mean, Amorim out, hashtag surely, trending every day. But they went to City and beat City 2-1 with the same players, team,
I'm
manager.
not sure that's the brag you think it is.
I was going to say, it says more about City than it does about United.
It must be the thing is, all the expectation is on Liverpool to not just win that game,
demolish,
but annihilate.
End them as a club.
Yes, that's it.
Make their fans finally sit down in the away end.
Or leave.
Or leave, preferably.
Yeah. So, so it's important that we win. All right. Chris, what's your starting 11?
For Brighton, we've got Raya in goal. As we alluded to, Partey, unfortunately, is going to have to take the right back berth. You're just not having that, Steph.
Well, I hope Steph comes up with something that Arteta will actually do, apart from draw a game.
Well, maybe he will, but anyway, that I think is what's going to happen. It's not what I want, it's what I think will happen. Saliba, Gabriel, I think he'll start Calafiori again. Ødegaard, Rice, Marino. I'm hoping that he will have faith in Ethan again. I think earlier we were talking in probably the previous pod about building Martinelli's relationship on the right and maybe leaning into that as a sort of safer option. But considering how Ethan hit the ground running in yesterday's game, I'd like to think he would start him on the right again. So I'm going to plump for that. And I don't think he's going to drop Jesus. And I think he'll play Martinelli on the left. So I think Havertz will be on the bench for this one.
Of course, we need to kind of preface this with, we're recording 48 hours ahead of the event, but also we've no idea whether that bug has just started to hit the players in the squad and who's available for that game or not. We've no idea. But we're assuming that we have no new injury concerns and there are no further sickness consequences. Steph, what about you? Starting 11. I'm looking forward to your right back, please.
Well, another thing to factor in as well, we've got the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final midweek against Newcastle. So maybe thinking about players that, could be held back, ready for that, could also play a factor. Look, we've played him at right back before, albeit maybe just as a cameo thing, but Calafiori has played right back. He can do it. So I'm thinking Raya in goal, Calafiori right back, Saliba, Gabriel, Miles Lewis-Skelly. From then on, I think it will be much the same team in midfield and attack as Brentford, because I think there might be something to be said for a bit of momentum and consistency in that. Plus, it will then Ødegaard, Partey, Rice as your midfield at 3. Now, the reason I've brought Rice in for Marino is because tricky away game. Rice and Partey, bit more protection. I just do not want to see Partey at right back. Look, yes, we probably will, and that will annoy the hell out of me because our win percentage with him as right back does drop, which is really annoying. But the reason I would bring Rice in ahead of Marino is because, Brighton will pose something of a threat, albeit, they are draw specialists, and Rice will give you that extra bit of security. But front three, again, I don't see why you wouldn't go with Nwaneri again, Jesus and Martinelli, just because of the form they're in. And what that will mean is that other players, so if Havertz is still recovering from his bug, you can hold him back, maybe save him for the Newcastle game. Trossard is another one I toyed with because, the old... the ex-player scoring against his old club narrative, but he's already sort of done that, so hold him back for Newcastle as well. And also mainly give Martinelli the confidence that he needs to, hopefully keep scoring the way he has.
Okay, I've gone for Partey at right back. I mean, I don't want to see him at right back. I never want to see him at right back. It's just so annoying that we've got like Ben White and Tomiyasu, two fantastic potential right backs, both unavailable. Will he play Calafiori at right back? I doubt it. I'd rather that. If you're offering me Partey or Calafiori at right back, I'll take Calafiori so that Partey can play in the middle, of course. I think he'll go for Lewis Skelly at left back, regardless of whether Calafiori isn't starting at right back. I think he's going to do what he's going to alternate. I think he's going to dovetail between the two, and I think that's fine. I've got no problem with that, and I don't think any Arsenal fan would mind whether it's Lewis Skelly or Calafiori starting. I think probably they might. How many of us privately thought Lewis Skelly wouldn't have done that, wouldn't have let that happen when Mbeumo scored that goal against Brighton? I did. I thought he'd be a lot closer, he'd be a lot tighter, because he's more like that Timber, proactive.
Yep. He would have engaged a lot sooner before he got anywhere near the box. So 100%. He's a different player completely. Calafiori's great with the ball. We're just yet to... And he's young, so I don't want to hammer him too much. It's his first season. He's, 21, 22. He's just a very physically different player as well. So it's going to take time.
Who would have thought Zinchenko would have come on as a striker? Didn't have that on my, Arsenal Christmas bingo card.
Yes, auxiliary.
In midfield, I've gone for Rice, Marino and Ødegaard. I did think about Ødegaard if Partey's playing at right back. Jorginho. If Partey's playing at right back, Jorginho may well come in, and I wouldn't have a problem with that either. In fact, I might prefer that over Marino there. But Rice, Marino and Ødegaard I've got. Again, I mean, it's what I think he'll do, because I think he'll play Partey at right back. Now, I think he'll bring Havertz back into the starting 11, and I think he'll keep Martinelli on the left, and I think he'll play Jesus on the right, simply because, and I would like him to start with Nwaneri, but do you know, I can understand if he doesn't. I think the kid's 17. That's his first Premier League start, and I don't know what minute he was substituted in, but he played most of the game. It wasn't like a 55, 60 minute substitution. It was later into the game than that. And I just think, just to protect him, and he'll play against Newcastle in the home game. I don't know. Again, I'm happy with Nwaneri starting, and I'm happy with Jesus playing. I'm happy, as you say, going with momentum, playing players on form, building those relationships. No issue with that at all. I'd keep Martinelli on the left. Marino does kind of help that left-hand side perform slightly more fluidly. So I can see that. I can get that. Well, do you know what? None of us have come up with the same starting 11, so Brighton are going to struggle to predict our starting 11. And considering the players we've got missing, that's pretty good to be able to keep the opposition guessing somewhat. Chris, score. I'm going you first.
I'm going to go 2-0 to us.
Okay. Can I just say that I wrote this down, but I don't know where. Oh yeah, we've had, I don't know how many away games we've had in the Premier League this season, but like 8 or 9. I don't know what it is. But we've only managed to keep 2 clean sheets against Villa and Spurs away from home, which is why I always do go for the 1 goal concession. But Steph, surprise me.
Brighton haven't lost their first league game in any of the last 8 calendar years. since a 1-0 home loss to Wolves on New Year's Day 2016, albeit in the Championship. And then this stat, because we talked about them being draw specialists, well, in their first 19 Premier League games under Fabian Hürzeler, Brighton have drawn 9 times. Only 3 managers have drawn 10 of their first 20 games. John Lyle, John Dean and Egil Olsen. So I think now that stat is out there in the world, it's on for Brighton to get yet another draw. I'm going 1-1.
See, when you predict a 1-1 draw away at Brighton, I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, thanks.
It's when you predict a 1-1 draw at home to Ipswich, I've got issues.
2-2 I predicted.
2-2.
Just, give me my credit where it's due.
Makes no sense. But anyway, I've gone for 2-1. I again, very much in the same mould as Brentford away. I think it's a tough ground, tough place. I think Brighton will create chances. I think we'll create chances. I think, again, the performance against Brentford gives me more confidence going into the Brighton game. I thought we kind of coped with adversity really well. We coped with a slow start from us really well, and we grew into the game. We managed the game. We scored at the right times. We were quite clinical. We were talking about in the absence of Saka, we need to be a lot more clinical in the penalty box, and we were certainly last night, which is good. So I'll take a 2-1. A 2-1. So we've gone for the same, almost the same as the Brentford game. You said 2-0 for that, Chris. I said 2-1, and Steph said 8-8, I think it was.
3-3. Yeah.
Another draw. It doesn't matter what your scores are. It's still a draw. Where's that? Where are you in that league table of predictions, Steph?
What, compared to Arsenal?
Yeah.
Like, if 9 points. Well, we're on 39 points, and I think I would have predicted us to be on something like 32, 33. Something like that.
And we're having a bad season, apparently. And you've got us 7 points lower than that.
I don't think I'm a million miles away, considering how negative I can be. I think that's not too bad.
It is, mate. It is.
Oh, well.
Are we there at Brighton?
40,
Liverpool are on 45.
Like I always do.
Right. Okay. Quiz time.
Oh, yep. God, I forgot about that.
Music sting, maestro.
So, as a nod to the January transfer window opening, can I just say that the only bit of information I've heard is that from Sami Mukbel, who's really well connected at Arsenal, he was the one that, like I told you guys, that Saka's going to be out for a lot longer than we think, and it was him that I got that information from. Not personally, I hasten to add. We're not old mates or anything. And he was right. He was bang on the money with that. He said that we are genuinely going to go for a winger this transfer window. That we ideally want a striker, like a number 9, and a midfielder, because obviously Jorginho and Partey will probably be gone in the summer. But he says that striker, Sesko, is the name again, and the midfielder, no name, more likely to leave those 2 positions till the summer, which absolutely is sensible. I understand that. But we are going to push for a winger. I've got a couple of names in my head. I don't know that they are in Arsenal's minds. Jared Bowen's injury at West Ham has been a bit unfortunate, because Kudus would be the player I would go for from West Ham. You talk about that kind of chaos creator as well. I think he's good, but I think if you compare him to Doku at Man City, I think he's the better player. He's got better end product. Doku is another Martinelli with the head down, kind of, get into good positions but do precious little with them. I don't know what his stats are, to be fair. Kudus, and the other one is Bournemouth. Is it Semenya? At Bournemouth. They're the 2. They give me Sane vibes. So when Liverpool bought Sane from Southampton, and Sane became part of that.
Do you mean Mane?
Mane. Sane's the Man City. Sorry, yes. Sane's gone to Bayern Munich, isn't he? Yeah, I mean Mane at Southampton. I got the M and the S mixed up.
So you did.
I did.
I think whoever it is, because they'll be coming mid-season, I want them Premier League ready.
Yeah, which is why I went
player
for those
from another
two.
league we can't really deal with that bedding in time.
Although Ødegaard joined us on a loan deal, didn't he, in January?
Yeah, maybe.
And did well. Okay, so look. I want the 10. What do I want? The 10 most expensive January signings we've made. This is difficult.
Well, no kidding.
Can I start?
Go on then.
Because it's just a bit of a romantic one for me, because I remember it all unfolding on Sky News, and this player was sat in the corner with his hoodie on, waiting for the documents to be faxed through from Moscow.
I know who you're going to say now.
Yeah, and Arshavin.
Yeah, that was one I had.
He's number 6. We signed from Zenit in the 08-09 season, and he cost us 18.5 million.
Okay, my one will be Aubameyang.
He's number 1.
Yeah.
Dortmund's 17-18 season cost 63 million.
Trossard, I've got.
Yeah, Trossard's number 3. 22-23 season, and he cost 24 million from Brighton.
Well, we're into give us a clue territory now.
Okay, well, there are 2 current members of the team.
Starting team or squad?
Actually, squads. Important squad players, I think. I've tipped one to possibly start against...
Jorginho?
Yeah, Jorginho. He's number 9, 22-23 season from Chelsea, 11.3 million. And the other one, none of us mentioned him today in relation to starting against Brighton, probably because of Miles Lewis-Skelly, to be fair.
Zinchenko.
Kivior, Chris, yeah. Oh, right. Spezia, 22-23 season, 19.5 million. Right, okay, who have we got then?
Pablo Mari.
No. But do you know, you're not...
Socrates.
No.
Mustafi.
No.
Just naming bad defenders
So,
now.
number 2 on the list, and I don't know how they valued him because he came as part of a swap deal. How's that for a clue?
Mkhitaryan.
Yes. 34 million, they're saying, from United in 17-18. I don't know how they placed the value
because
on that.
there has to be a fee involved,
yeah.
Even though essentially the fees essentially cancel each other out. Yeah.
But we'd never have paid 34 million for Mkhitaryan at that time. It was, Sanchez in the other direction. Number 4 on the list. Let's do it in order. Number 4 on the list, because you've got the top 5, you've got the top 6 apart from number 4. Number 4, he's sadly no longer with us.
Oh,
as in not with
Reyes.
us, the club. Yeah, Reyes. 20 million, Sevilla, 03-04 season.
January.
Right. Number 7. He'd fit into this squad primarily because of his first name. Gabriel. What's his surname?
It's just Gabriel, isn't he?
No, it's not.
No, I don't know.
God, the defender, the centre half.
Yeah, centre half, yeah. So we signed him from Villarreal in the 14-15 season for 15 million.
Yes, I remember.
The one who Diego Costa wound up.
Yes, that's right. And yeah, should have got sent off as well as him at Chelsea, but didn't. Shall I tell you? Paulista. Gabriel Paulista.
It just came to me, yeah.
Right, number 8. Steph, you have referenced number 8 this afternoon, not in relation to actually playing football, but in relation to singing about football. El Neni from Basel in 15-16, 12.5 million. And the last one on the list.
Surely.
05-06 season, 10.5 million. Had never played first team football. Oh no, sorry, probably had.
Walcott?
Yes, Theo.
Theo.
So he obviously went with England to the, I don't know where it was, the Euros or the Worlds.
I would call that a list of a mixed bag.
Yeah. If you look at the list, there's other players obviously that are on there that didn't like. So we signed Adebayor in January, for example. That would have been an interesting... Was he hit or miss at Arsenal?
Yeah, he was hit for a bit, wasn't he?
He got sent off for Spurs against us. That was a high point in his career.
5-2.
For us.
Oh, God, I enjoyed that game.
We can thank him for winning that game because we were 2-0 down at the time or 1-0 down at the time, or whatever it was.
So enjoyable.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. There's your quiz. Wasn't quite name all the players that have played for both Arsenal and Brighton. Just to shake things up at the start of the year, Chris.
Indeed.
Right. Steph, you're off to the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
You've been there before, haven't you?
I've been there quite a few times. Quite like going to Brighton away. And we're in the minibus.
What's your record like?
And, getting better, I think, is the best way to sort of put it. And last time we went down on the minibus, I jumped off the minibus in the middle of Brighton and went to the pub and watched, like, Soccer Saturday or whatever in the pub for the afternoon, had a couple of beers. But the other people who then took the minibus straight to the ground, because the ground is actually in Hove, it's not in Brighton, they all found this little tea shop and had like proper afternoon tea. So I'm going afternoon tea this time. For a bit of a change.
Not doing much to dispel our image as a middle class football
It's
club.
Arsenal Brighton.
Proper away fan fare. That is afternoon tea.
It's not Larry, is it? It's Arsenal Brighton.
Is it Claridge's?
With the Guardian tucked under his arm.
Too right. Yeah, exactly.
And Chris, are you going to be able to watch the game, or are you cooking for people? Or
Tentatively, yes. But my daughter is having a birthday party, and loads of her mates are coming over to have burgers and whatever.
And watch football.
But I'm going to park them.
They don't know that yet.
No, I've got it all worked out. I'm stage managing it very specifically, that where to herd them so that I can watch the game. So yeah.
Good. Well, I'll obviously be watching on the box as well. Okay, is that it? We done?
We're done.
Right, indeed. Okay,
unbeaten in
thanks for the
2025.
chat. Unbeaten, a winning streak. Long may that continue. And thanks for listening. And enjoy the next couple of days. Enjoy the game, and we'll catch up again probably on Sunday, because Steph won't be in any fit state to talk about the game on the Saturday. We'll catch up on Sunday to have a little chat about it, and I look forward to Newcastle again. Oh, the game's coming thick and fast. Right, cheers guys. Cheerio everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at NorthbankPod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company. Is it? I think it was Arsblog who he said, like Kyle Walker, thick and fast.
They're coming thick and fast like Kyle Walker. Yes, exactly.